This is one of the older machine sheds. Probably the first one. It's the old workbench. Before there was one put in the newer shop that was built later. Got some evidence of the age of this. We got a calendar that hasn't been flipped since October 1957. The baby food jars nailed up to hold hardware. And a radio that still has tubes in it. I have no idea what those horns are off of. The John Deere guys should know what this piston came out of. Add power. I believe that's from the old Untitled A. Old wood crate or box for changing your lugs on your car. Some other parts laying around. Wall full of tire chains back when you moved your snow with loader tractors. Before your fangled air-conditioned cabs, the old cane cabs. And then some of the other tractors had heat housers on them, where they would put it along the side and it would keep you warm that way. There's 2 of these left around here. Haven't been on a tractor since before I was born. Flat pulley buzzsaw. I guess this was originally mounted on that Untitled Deere, and then later on it was fashioned. There's hardware here we're looking that you could mount it on a row crop. Dad thought the last time that this was actually on a tractor. It's probably in the 70s. I think it'd be kind of fun to put it on just for a display for one of the shows or something. Side curtains from the mounted picker, and then the side curtains for fleet line. Row crops are all we ever had around here. Here is an old crosscut saw. I'll put a video in. Me and my brother-in-law gave us a whirl when we took the buggy out that day. Tell you what, this one might be a little rusty and pull a little harder, but that is some work. If you don't mind your shoulders being on fire. Some more horse rope and balancers sitting on the side there. Some of this stuff's been picked through already. Wooden pulley. Would you like to chop stuff with this? Old scythe, sling blade.
With a long blade on it, shaped kind of like a banana.
Obviously it has a modern modification. I don't know the last time this was used, but it's an original. This is what is left of the first homemade tractor here. I'd put a picture in when I talked about when I did our tractor collection video, but Dad pulled this out of the fence line recently. Probably there since about the early 50s. My aunt had sent me a picture that I hadn't seen before that showed some of the kids on there, so that tells me that it was around 1950. I'll throw a couple pictures up of this. So when they're coming off of horses, a lot of people didn't have money, and a common thing to do, they call them doodle bugs, is they would take their, because the Model Ts and them cars were used up, you can buy them for 10 bucks. And so they would put bigger rear wheels on it, and they'd fashion it into a tractor basically to pull implements instead of using a horse. And this one was based off of a Dodge Brothers sedan. Sitting on the field road going to the woods. Not much left of it. Another sign showing it's a Dodge is early on they had starter generators. They serve the same purpose. You'd use the same motor to charge and start. And that's what that big guy is on there. So much usable on this. I was thinking if I ever build a rat rod, take the front radiator shroud off of it, because that thing is the only thing that's really not damaged, just to have something from the farm on it. Kind of interesting. You start digging through all the old stuff, things that are still here. So now I'm digging around back out in the woods to show you what I think is the body off of that 20s Dodge Brothers car. If you see that fender down there, in the back window, gotta have bullet holes. So what I'm guessing they did was bought that old car, probably pretty cheap because by then it would have been fairly old already, ripped the body off, built their doodlebug. Would have been like 30s or maybe early 40s. An old spring tooth that got leaned against it and gave out. Grandpa was only around. Dad have some more stories to be told. Back in the old garage now, the one the carriage came out of. Recognize that logo? Dodge Brothers. Another piece from that old car, homemade tractor. Most of the stuff has been picked out of here now. There's still some stuff on the wall. So here we have a parts breakdown, every piece for the new K lawnmower, real type, every part. And I found them more, and I'll show you next. So after finding that parts list, I started kicking around a little bit, and I found them more. The old timers never threw anything away. It's got the reel under there. So there was a motor mounted right there on those 4 slots, and then that belt drove that, and then they had a lever to engage it. Pretty simple. But what happened to this was they pulled the motor off, and my grandpa mounted it on a bicycle for my oldest uncle. He made a little motorbike belt drive with like an over center lever on it to engage the pulley he put on the wheel. That's long gone, but I can't believe the moor's still here, and complete breakdown for it. Crazy. And since this garage was up front, this was the main one where they put parked cars and stuff until it got kind of small. And one thing that was pretty neat is right here on 2 nails, they had hung every license plate. So back in those days, they didn't have tabs. This was obviously newer, but all those plates have been pulled out of here. And I'll show you where they are, where they start and where they end. Here are all those old plates that were hanging in that original old garage. Starting in 1918. 1920 were all in one plate. Don't you wish they still did registration 3 years at a time? 21, 22, 3, 4, 5. Pretty much every year. Different color schemes. Pretty cool. Some other stuff that was around the farm. Oh, and this door. I was gonna have Mom paint it up. Again, I believe this is off that Dodge Brothers car. Here's a piece out of the granary. I believe it's a shower apparatus. It says bath apparatus on it, so you'd fill that with water. It'd just trickle on your head and then have a catch pan. Like a gravity shower. Things have come a long ways. Okay, what we have here is another, I think it's a neat piece. Probably came from a service station, somewhere where they service cars. Shell Petroleum Corp. They have it labeled as a lube scroll. So what this does is it has two knobs down the side of it. And this is the top half. It looks like they might have had a, like a clipboard for service records or a binder for paperwork. And you turn the dial and you get your model of a car. Like a Buick 60, and then you have your cross reference for shock absorber, brake, cross shafts, and that gives you a number or a letter. And then you match that up and it'll recommend, what kind of Shell lubricant to use or how to oil it or grease it. And it pretty much goes through all the old models. I know it's hard to see. Started in 1935, so this thing's pretty old. I think this is really neat. Studebaker comes through and tells you what to use. And you flip this over, and you have diagrams. You have another dial. There's like a big reel of paper in here. Cord, 30, 31, 32. Clutch release shaft equalizer. You scroll through this thing, and you have basically like a service manual. And some instructions. Still works, turns a little hard. This has been in our old machine shed for a really long time. I don't know where it starts or stops, but most of the stuff I've seen here is 30s era. And if you go far enough on this reel of paper, it'll stop. So I'm sure they probably got new inserts every year when the new models come out. I don't know how it ended up at the farm, but kind of cool. Old blue jar with a screw on top for filling oil or other automotive chemicals. And an old lamp oil lantern light. This looks like it would have come off of an early Ford, like a Model T. Got a bracket on it. I think I remember that's what I was told. I've seen they're common, but it was in the granary, and as far as I know, they never really ran any Fords. Maybe it's my grandma's side. I think they had some. Also out of the old garage were the snowmobiles. Last winter I did a video on this. It was sitting for 20 years. Got it running, but I never got it drawn out of the tank. That one's kind of rough. But this is that old rotary oven root. And this was Grandpa's baby. And this hasn't ran since probably the year before he died. So about 2002. So one of these years, I'll take this thing home and go through it and get her in the snow again.